Hello, I'm Brian Vibberts, 7-time Grammy winner, and I am at Abbey Road Institute in Paris. Yeah, I was fortunate to learn from a lot of great engineers, like the best, really, I consider. I mean, Bruce Swedien, Al Schmidt, Mick Gazowski, I would say Kevin Killen as well. Yeah, I learned a lot from each one, and I kind of brought all of those together to then make my own style. But really from Bruce, recording, obviously his stereo techniques that he used, different types of stereo techniques in his recording, and then the mixing, the way he approaches the mix, the balances being so important just with the faders before any effects are added. And then, you know, the use of effects and the use of how he does the fader rides and builds the music. From Al Schmidt, I learned a lot about miking. It was all about getting the sound at the source with the microphone. If it's not working with that microphone, change the mic or change the position of the mic. So I learned a lot of that from Al. Mick Gazowski, of course, he does a lot of mixing. So when I was with him mixing, I would watch to see what he was doing with the effects, with how he approaches delays and the sounds that he would get, the sounds of the drums of you know, whatever elements were in the song, and just how he got the sounds. And I was always eager to watch anyone and learn from any of those guys. And that's why, you know, I like to give back and be here to share my knowledge. Well, I would have to say working on History with Michael Jackson was life-changing, because it was such an important album, and it was a long time. It was 15 months of recording and mixing on that with the whole team. Obviously, there was a whole group of engineers, and I was with Bruce Swedien most of the time, but I was also doing more additional engineering with recording keyboards and, you know, whatever elements we had sometimes at night after Bruce would go home. So I would say that would be one of the most important and one that I really learned a lot from. But also I'd have to say mixing Corea has always been a highlight. To, you know, you get that many high-level musicians, the level of musicianship. It was just an honor and a pleasure to mix that. For me in mixing, I think it's important for every instrument and every part of the song to be heard. Even if it's something that needs to just be in the background, we should still hear it or just feel it. So for me, the panning and the balance are extremely important. You know, the balance being the level with the faders. But for me, panning, I don't go just left, center, right. I'm putting things in exact places in the soundscape, and that helps to make every part clear in the mix. In addition to all of that, I think what I bring to the mix is I'm bringing the emotion of what is being sung about in the lyrics. So if there's a certain mood of the song, I want to make sure I capture that and the listener feels that. It's an important thing to know what the artist wants or the producer, usually it's between those two, of what the vision is of the song and even the artist generally. So if I know the audience they're trying to get or the style of music that they're in and the song, what the message is about, that helps me mix. If it's a lot of guitars and a lot of keyboards in the same song, obviously it could be guitar based or it could be keyboard based. So, and it can be mixed either one, both would be correct, but what are they actually looking for? What does the artist want? So I usually ask that if it's not apparent to me. But really it's the moods. I try to have them give to me like different emotions, different words of what the song is. Sometimes I'll have them explain what the song's about to them. I can read the lyrics, but am I really getting the true point of what they're trying to convey? So I want to make sure I know that before I mix, so I can bring that out in the mix, in my sounds. Wow, okay, great question. 5 desert plugins. The FabFilter EQ, I love that EQ. I would have to say that's one of them for the really fine control, and it sounds good, and I can get tight notches to get rid of the frequencies that I don't want in the instrument. or the sound. In the opposite way, I'd probably say the Waves Neve VEQ4 for additive EQ. I love the SSL, of course. I also love the Neve. So those different EQs have different functions for me. But I love the Neve. But reverb, I would Altiverb. Altiverb, I love. I mean, I love the Bricasti. If we're not talking about plugins, I'd have the EMT 250.
Really?
The real. No, I wish I did. But that and the Bricasti are my favorite reverbs. For mastering, first of all, we're all on the same team. Just because the mix is finished and it's going to mastering doesn't mean that my involvement should be over. I feel like I'm involved until the end. When it goes to the mastering engineer, several years ago, I used to be in the same room with Bernie Grunman with Corea mixing. But now, it's more send the track, they send it back. But I always want to listen to it. And I'll put it in a Pro Tools session with the mix that was sent and approved by the artist and what's come back from the mastering engineer. I'll match the levels. So, because of course, anyone is always going to choose the louder one as being better, right? So I make sure that it's exactly the same level. And then I'll A/B. I'll listen to one, listen to the other, going back and forth so I can hear what's different and to make sure that it's improved. There's no more level adjustment in it anymore because I've matched those. So is the feeling of the song still there? Did the song get crushed too much and now it's not dynamic enough? Those are the things that I'm looking for. And if there's some changes, then I usually talk straight to the mastering engineer. And sometimes the mastering engineer will send it to me first. We'll go through some changes, and then he'll send it to the artist. And we go from there. For new engineers, producers, people in the control room, basically, that in the industry, I would say there's a few things that I would recommend. One is to diversify. Don't only be a mixer or only be a recording engineer. I have felt in my career I've been fortunate that I know how to do several different kinds of engineering. I can do live broadcast mixing. I can record an orchestra with mixing in general, mixing in 5.1, in Dolby Atmos, Sony 360 Reality Audio. I'm diverse in what I can do. So in that way, when one area might be slow, there'll be work in one of the other areas. So that's one thing. Another I would say is to try to learn something new every day. A third thing I would say is be aware of what's happening in the control room, what people are talking about, discussing, what they're wanting, and to start preparing for that before they ask for it. The whole session will be smoother. And you'll get, the next time that engineer or that producer or that artist is doing a project, they're going to request you because you made everything go smoother in the session.